Welcome back to Punch Drunk Nerd, the podcast where three friends, three amigos, three bambinos come together to talk about nerd shit. My name is Luis Gonzalez, and with me is
Miguel Sanchez
and Steven Escobar.
And today only, we're going to be talking about The Last of Us Season 2, which is a show that covers Last of Us Part 2. We did a couple more episodes this week. We're doing a Mission Impossible episode. Check that out. We also did a very special Lilo and Stitch review. Please check that out. Very new. We've never done anything like that before. Let us know if that worked or didn't work. But it's on YouTube. Probably better to watch it on YouTube. But let's not talk about other content or other IP. We're here to talk about The Last of Us. And what I'm so excited to talk about The Last of Us is because Steven literally just finished the game like Sunday, which is when the finale was, right?
Oh yeah, that's true. You're right. Yeah, that day. Wow, that's nuts. You're right.
So you're coming in this like super fresh, super hot. And then Miguel here is just like a Last of Us veteran. He's played this game so many times, and I'm in between. I'm in the middle. So I'm going to let these two rock stars really lead the conversation here. Miguel, do you want to go first?
Well, yeah, I can lead real quick. I just say that, Last of Us Season 2 just finished. What I feel like Steven knows by now because he played the game is they're splitting the Season 2 into two different seasons.
Is it 3?
Well, that's the word we're hearing is they're going to go for a whole nother fourth season. But I do think because you've played the game now, maybe that's a good question to start off is, does this show need 4 seasons? Like now that you see how they've split the season in the game, is there enough off of this content alone to go to a 4th season? That's kind of a question mark for me.
I hear you. Are we doing spoilers in this conversation, or are we trying
definitely spoilers? Yes.
Okay, I tell you what. What I would say is let's spoil the TV show and let's be careful about the game.
Okay.
I like
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that.
In that case, I was going to say, that 3rd season, they'd have to like really draw out. There's sort of like a third part of the game at the end, but it's kind of tiny. They'd have to just draw that part
I think this 4th season theoretically would be like The Last of Us Part 3.
Yeah, it's like the Beyond, like what we haven't seen yet.
This is the Game of Thrones type of situation where they went ahead of the books. What I mean? Where George R. didn't finish the book, so they were like, well, we got to keep trucking. And maybe this is kind of the same situation, but unlike Game of Thrones, where George R. Martin wasn't involved, in The Last of Us, Neil Druckmann, the creator of The Last of Us, is involved with the show. So what happens is kind of what he wants too,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Steven, what'd you think? I mean, you had the finale here. You just finished the game. You're hot off, feeling everything. Like, what are your thoughts?
I am. It's so confusing. You want to talk about the TV show first or the video game first? There is something I wanted to say, actually. Okay, TV show. There's something I wanted to say, and I want to say this to everyone. And I don't know if I speak for everyone, but I'm saying this for myself at least. I recently had a conversation kind of like this with my nephew, but I have to say this right off the bat. I want to bracket this, that if you like the show or if you didn't like the show, both to me are completely valid opinions. If you like something, you're allowed to like it. And if you don't like something, you are allowed to not like it. Never let anyone pressure you into liking or disliking something that you do not like or dislike. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to tag on that just to say like, yes. Okay. Like, I think that's a very valid. There is a lot of talk. If you think back all the way to when the game first came out, there was very divisive camps. And I think we're seeing that trend again with the TV show from gamers to TV show watchers. And so I think that's a very valid point of view to start the conversation with is,
thanks. That's why I wanted to say at the beginning.
You can like it, you can not like it, and you can be in those camps from either perspective. And I think there's a lot of really valid points. So I appreciate you saying that because I thought I was going to come into this going, oh, they're going to hate me for saying some of the things I want to say. Okay.
Yeah, no, I've had complaints about the way people have criticized this season, but it isn't. My complaint would never be, well, you should like it. If someone doesn't like it, I understand that's acceptable. A lot of the reasons they'll give reasons why they don't like it that sound really weird to me, that I think are incorrect and nonsensical. But someone enjoying something or being moved by it is on them. It's completely up to them. I would never want to take that away from anyone. So I just, before we go into whether criticism or praise,
I love that.
Here It's okay whether someone likes it or does not like it. That's fine. It's up to someone to tell us why they like it or don't like it.
So what if we just do like a really quick like thumbs up, thumbs down of the season, like with a really quick.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I love it.
Even the game, I have been. You guys go ahead. I don't know if you like it or don't like it. I'm like, I like it, and then I don't like it, and then I like it, and then I don't like it. I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, I'm going back and forth, like per scene. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say that my initial knee-jerk reaction was that I did not like this season of The Last of Us, okay? But I had a really great perspective. My wife watched the show with me, and she played the first game but did not play the second game, which is also a whole story of its own. Like, that's wild. But she was able to kind of like present like her own like TV show viewer perspective, and it helped me like calm down a lot. You know, like there were things that I was like, I don't love this. And she was like, well, this is what they're doing based on her perception. And I was oh, okay. All right. That helps me like understand where I'm supposed to be. And so I just felt like I landed kind of in the middle with some like a couple of moments that I was very like, this is how I feel. But I also kind of like took a breath. So I'm not my favorite season compared to the first season of the TV show and compared to the game.
Yeah.
But I do think there were a lot of shining moments. So we'll wait. We'll talk more.
There are definitely changes that are made. It does feel like there is a ton different about the characters. A lot of these characters feel like almost fundamentally different than they were in the game.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the rage I'm seeing is those changes. A lot of people are really upset about those changes. To me, that's not as big a problem. It doesn't really bother me that these characters act differently than they do in the game, or they do different things, or none of that really bothered me ever. So I was surprised to see that was someone's criticism, even though it was odd. Like Ellie's she like doesn't seem to have very many survival skills, was a little odd. Like Dina's doing all the work and like kind of leading, and that was odd, but it didn't like it didn't throw me off as much. And I think one of the reasons is this game seems to be, the way a lot of people, including y'all, talk about it, it's very sacred. Y'all talk about it like it's a type of Bible. Like people talk about it like this isn't just the greatest video game, it's one of the greatest stories of all time. It's a masterpiece. They talk about you're going to convert. Like it's I think when you deviate from something so sacred, people are going to get upset. It's become theirs. You know, the fans have taken it into their soul, and when it changes or doesn't look the way it did in their head, they're going to push back. And I wonder if that's what's going on with you, Miguel.
Yeah, and I will talk about that, but first I want to hear Luis's real quick thought.
Yes.
What was your thought about the show so far?
I think this is a very difficult task because it's hard to translate a video game to a TV show because there's so many more aspects to a show that you can showcase and certain things that you can't really do.
You don't hold the TV remote like pushing buttons as the show goes on, you know?
I'm not making choices as Ellie or using game mechanics that later get called back to again in the game that make me feel a certain way because I played that game and made that decision. One of the biggest thing I think is Ellie is a lot more violent in the game compared to being in the show.
Yeah.
I feel like she's a lot softer. But, I think there's a balance with that because as a player, I'm not the violent one. I'm the one who actually has some compassion, has some distance. So we had this podcast. We talked about this earlier where when Joel in the show died, I was like, I don't care about anything. I want to destroy Abby. I want to end Abby. As I continue to play as Ellie, I began to be like, oh, I'm the villain right now, And then we go into Abby, who then it's like, oh, wow, have I been the villain the whole time? But then it gets more complicated. It's a lot grayer because I see how violent she is. She's not as violent on the show. And it's like in the game, I'm imbuing my own compassion to it. And I feel like with the show, they're trying to meld that game experience with the Ellie in the game and the player experience into one. It's like, well,
yeah.
You need to create some sort of like remorse and it can't be pure hate for whatever. I think it's very difficult because you need to set up all these things and restructure it and reframe it. And you have to deal with pacing. Like you can't just be in Seattle day one for 3 episodes. You can't be, as much as I would love for us to be in the neighborhood, like in that neighborhood area, which we didn't see, we can't be another 4 episodes in there. So I think they had a really hard time of limiting these episodes. I was surprised when it was the finale. I was like, what the fuck?
That's what I was going to say.
Episodes left.
I mean, it could have gone another episode. It could have gone.
And I don't know if this was like the production, the weight of a production, knowing that they're doing 2 seasons back to back, that they like, hey, we can't do a full 10-10. We have to do 8-8 just to give ourselves an opportunity to release these in time. But outside of all that, I mean, just initial reactions, I think I find myself liking the show, and I kind of see the vision of what they're trying to do. All their moments is very intentional. I feel like everything isn't just thrown to the side. I think they are trying to communicate something, whether it's like you hate Ellie or you're with Ellie or you want to see another side of this character. I think it's all, they are orchestrating something. Whether you like that music or not is a whole separate topic. But are you saying that they're not competent? I see the competency of what they're doing, and I'm totally online with it. Are there some changes that rub me the wrong way? Do I like cilantro in my salsa? No. You know what I mean? And was there a little cilantro in this episode?
And you're wrong, okay?
Didn't like. They were like, well, I like salsa, but not the cilantro. That's kind of the situation here. And so
I just want to come out guns blazing and say that okay, hang on.
You have me head first into a crusade.
Do you guys remember The Dark Knight, right? The key line in The Dark Knight, right? He's like, you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, okay? I remembered when The Last of Us 2 came out and how much I fucking loved that game. And then the camps that were like, you either love it or hate it. And I've talked about this before. You either love it or you hate it. And there's very clear distinctions, and you can really point to the criticisms straight away in the game. And I just never saw myself being the one that was going to be like, well, here's what I hate about this, okay? Because I think this is one of the best stories ever, and I think the game is so fun. And I ended the season going, well, I have a lot of thoughts, okay? And then you hop on the internet and you see all these like critiques, like they hold up a mirror to what I'm thinking, and I'm like, well, no, I don't want to think that. I don't want to be that. But there are some things that I just like thought did not work for the season. And I appreciate that there's like they're making choices and it's an adaptation. And that's all I keep telling myself is like they are not going to do the beat for beat exactly how I want it to be. And that's okay. But there were some changes that I just really did not sit well with me. And by the end of the show, I thought, oh, I really stuck it out for this, and that makes me go, oh no, what's the next season going to be? But also, when it comes to the game, that second half of the game was really my favorite part of the game. Okay. So like I ended up really loving Abby's character and Abby's journey. And so then now I'm like, am I supposed to feel like this? One of the things that Kristen told me at one point at the end of the last episode, she goes, Ellie is so annoying and I don't think I like her. And I was like, me too. I don't like that. And she goes, but I don't like her because of XYZ. And I was like, oh, that's a totally different perspective of what I had of it. And it made me go, oh, is this purposeful? Like, am I supposed to not like her in this way?
Exactly.
I feel like you are. That's the exact point.
And what I thought was kind of, it made me think about it is I never really hated Ellie by the end of her journey, but I did think she was making some choices that weren't good, but I never really hated what was happening. And I feel like
I didn't like who I was becoming when I was playing as Ellie.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. And they play that up in these last couple episodes of The Last of Us in this season. And so I was like, okay, this is just the TV version of that arc that I'm supposed to feel.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to like her.
You're not supposed to. I think if you come out of it feeling like, yeah, Team Ellie, then I think you're
doing something wrong. Yeah.
I feel like that's, the final shots of the game where like there's that final, like the camera moves. And I just feel like that is exactly the point. Yeah. I mean, there's distance between us now, and this is type of entity. Like this is no longer our little girl anymore.
But isn't that the whole, even the story structure of that is telling a story? You know what I mean? And that's what I find very fascinating, especially because it's like this two-sided story. It's like we're here supposed to like the character, and then what happens when we meet the character we don't like them? How does that make us viscerally feel? And then now we have season 2 coming up. And now you have two things you can compare it to, and you're like, I have a dual experience that gives me perspective. Because it's like, I never want to be that person who has this much, who acts this way, and has this much rage and all these things and making stupid decisions. But then it's like, I get it. I see both things. This thing is like a square dimension of like,
that is how
I see it and I don't like it, but I get it, but I don't want it. And I prefer this. And I think that Rubik's Cube is a different type of storytelling, because usually when you get something like, here's the plate of food and you see it, and here it's like, well, let me show this angle, let me show this angle and this angle. And maybe they didn't do it as graceful as we would.
What if that last bite is a little rotten,
but wait till the dessert and it washes it out.
There you go.
Come on.
I love it.
No, but you're right. What if it is rotten and you're 1000%? This is maybe a show for the brave. Can you take that rotten bite to go to the other side and come out differently?
Yeah.
Yes. Man.
But I want to know what like upset you. Like you keep bringing it up. Please just say what
let's
it
get
is.
concrete.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, so all right, I'm just going to be that guy, and I don't mean to sound like this, but I truly did not love, and this is a casting decision, not a performance decision.
Yeah.
I did not love Bella Ramsey as Ellie in this version of Ellie. I think she was perfectly cast as the 14-year-old version of Ellie in season 1. What I just, as someone who's played the game so many times, and I really don't want to be the guy that's like, it's not the game, Yeah. But there is a transition from Ellie game 1 to Ellie game 2 that I just didn't feel was captured in this performance. But it might not have been the performance. It might have been the writing a little bit. There were some lines that I was like, I really don't like this, and I'm not going to repeat it, ad nauseum. But I just, there were times where like Ellie in the first game did not like seem like a formidable foe, but Ellie in the first half of game 2 was like, no, I'm here and I will do what's necessary. And I just I never felt that from the performance in this season, but I don't really think they really set her up for it either. I just that was just kind of like my knee-jerk reaction. Now I'll tell you this. There was hope in the beginning. I did feel like they were doing like a season 1 to season 2 transition in the beginning couple of episodes. And I just never felt that there was like a true organic like change of pace. They kind of kept going back and forth with this character. I really appreciated my wife. One of the things she said was like, you have to remember she's like a 19-year-old. And there was like one point where she was like, the relationship between her and Dina, she's like, they're playing house right now. They're not like legit like family yet. And I thought that was a really interesting like perspective, because in the game, I don't feel that. I don't feel they're playing house in the game. I do feel like they both go through trauma, and at the end of that game, they are a family. And so I think there was something to be said about like the TV show not giving you that full blown dynamic just yet.
That's a good point.
Listen, guys. I have a few other thoughts, and I'll ramble for another 45 minutes. But I don't
ramble. Yeah,
it's ramble. I'll throw one out. Just this is what I've been noticing. I think the game. I loved the game. Like the game had me hooked, and I started replaying it because it wasn't enough, and it never gave me enough. Like I get good with the shotgun, they take it away from me. I get good with the rifle, they take it away. You know what I mean? Like, right when I got in a rhythm, everything changed. So like finally, when I was like 100% perfect with Ellie, they switched me in Abby. I was like, and we never went, went back.
That means something though when that happens. You know?
Yeah, it drove me nuts. But what I think is, I don't know if I connected with the story, the characters in the same way that everyone seems to be doing with this game. Everyone seems to, okay, for example, Jesse. In the game, I didn't know his name. And then when he died, I was like, oh no, we got to run. And then I forgot about him forever. Didn't care. Not once.
I think that's valid.
In the show,
Jesse's very good.
I was stunned. Like I felt it for the first time in the show.
No, I love that.
So, and I'm not saying the game was bad. I'm saying none of those beats worked for me personally.
It's because you have more moments with Jesse compared to the game where you're playing as Ellie the whole time. In the game, and here in the show, we get to see different sides of Jesse that are with outside of Ellie.
And I felt Dina's personality. I cannot tell you a single line of hers from the game. Couldn't remember her name. Most of the time, I was saying, "Get out of my way, Dina." Like most of the time, I was mad at her. Most of the time, I wanted her out of my way.
That's insane.
Didn't care about Jesse, wasn't interested. Tommy, huge deal. When that stuff happens in the theater, I was like, I'm back. I'm going to kill you, Abby. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm back in the game. Tommy, huge deal. Nothing. Dina, nothing. And then the show, I'm like, oh, that's a human being. I didn't even think about it when I was playing the game.
Yeah. Luis and I had a whole episode of The Last of Us Part 2 when he finished playing the game. And now what I'm realizing is we should never have put the show and the game in the same episode. We should be talking about this wholeheartedly, separately of the TV show.
A lot to talk about. That's what I'm saying. It is a ton to talk about the game and the show. This is a lot. We can do it, but it's a lot.
I would argue that I think there's a couple of things at play. Imagine playing The Last of Us Part 2 the day it came out. Okay, as opposed to 5 or 6 years later, okay, where you've heard all the critiques, you know.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like Steven, as a person who's played a little bit of Fortnite with you, okay, and darts 1 or 2 times, okay, Steven, you are a very like, I'm playing, I'm locked in, you know what I mean? And so the fact that you say something like, I didn't even know Dina, I wasn't even paying attention to that. I think that is like, you know, I'm a player who like locks into the dialogue. You know what I mean? Ed, you ask Ed, he's so deaf. He has one ear that doesn't even work. And we'll listen to a song and he'll be like, I don't even like that. And I'll be like, were you even listening to it? Like imagine playing Not Like Us to Ed. Ed would be like, I don't fucking get this. Okay. He'd be like, okay, you're just not listening. Okay.
For me, when I was playing the game, it was just like constant. There was focus on like a singular idea, Oh, another thing people were talking about was like killing dogs. Didn't give a shit. Shot everyone in the face. Didn't blink. Like none of this stuff moved me, or not that the game didn't move me. I'll get to what did. It wasn't until Abby came in that I started having like going, oh crap, I'm starting to feel something.
Yeah,
the whole Ellie stuff.
Nope,
singularly focused.
Yep.
I was. You, I'm killing you, I'm killing you, I'm killing you, I'm killing that dog, I'm killing the next dog, another dog better come, I'll kill that dog too.
But let me ask you this.
Associated the whole time.
So for the switch to Abby, did you feel something when the Abby dog switched? Like when all of a sudden the dogs were introduced in Abby's gameplay?
I don't think so. That's a weapon of war.
Fair enough.
That's a gun. No, that's a weapon. That thing's gonna kill me. To me, it's the same as a clicker. So are the people. Nope, you're in my way. You're a problem. I won't do that. In my head.
That's fair. But then also in Abby's gameplay, they introduced Alice, and all of a sudden,
that's what I'm saying. Alice,
one dog. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Got it.
Oh, you know what I did do on accident? I accidentally threw the ball too high, and it went way out of the stadium, like into the stands, and Alice was staring, looking. That made me feel bad. That was the one time I felt bad.
All of a sudden, you shed a tear. You're like, fuck!
Shoot the dog, no problem. Didn't bother me at all. Like, people were like, oh my gosh, Alice died. And I had to remember, I'm like, oh yeah, there was a dog there in the aquarium. I forgot.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't.
Luis, hang on. I gotta ask Luis. All of these moments that Steven's talking about, did you feel anything in those moments?
So in the same way when we were fighting, I was like, I gotta kill everything. And you know what? In fact, these dogs were so annoying. They kept killing me. And I was like, I've had enough with these dogs. And then when we got to Abby and we were in the cage and stuff, I was like, I had a different feeling. I was like, oh, fuck. Okay.
Because that dog comes up to you and you pet it, much like the opening of the game in Jackson, where she goes and she pets the dog. And that's the whole like prelude to that whole thing where you go, oh, dogs are good until they're not, until they are.
Yeah. No, I definitely felt it. And, you know, that's one thing that stood out in the show is that we didn't get that dog death at the aquarium, which people...
Well, I think
there were no animals really that died, right? Wasn't that? Didn't you send me that to me?
But they were also saying they also showed the Jackson, the big battle in Jackson in the season where they released the dogs, and so we did get like this sense of, oh, dogs are companions, dogs are helpful, dogs do their job, and I think that's something that could be mirrored in this next season, where dogs are more pets, maybe, you know, even though they're like service animals. Maybe now they're more pets in the Abby season. We'll see.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it seems like they took out all the animal killings because Shimmer is also still alive. Yeah, hang on. I'm sorry. I'd waiting for that. Oh, that hurt. Okay, that one hurt. Shimmer,
the horse. Okay, we can agree, right?
That one hurt. Okay, I forgot about that. Yeah, Shimmer's.
And you know they introduced Shimmer all the way in season 1. You see the horse very briefly in season 1, right when they get to Jackson. And then in the second game, they were like, "Well, let's don't kill her. Let's keep the horse alive." You know,
alive. Yeah,
thank God.
Shimmer hurt. That one hurt, and I could feel it coming too. I was like, "This is a bad idea." See, that's why. Abby, the way Ellie's mind switched was the way my mind switched when I was playing the game. Like I was saying, I gravitated between those two, between we got to go back and I got to kill this woman. We got to go back. That's what happened to me as I played the game. Watching Ellie do it on screen, I'm like, yeah, that's what a human being would do. Like a human being. And then to see people be like, why is she changing her mind? Well, I'm changing my mind just playing it. Of course, I feel like I would change my mind if I was there. But the point being, just that was Shimmer was a big reason I wanted to go back. I thought I should not have brought a horse. I should tie this horse up, leave it, and then go on my suicide mission because this horse is going to die. It scared me. that one made me want to go back for the horse. Yeah. But the Abby thing I liked, but also with Ellie, I felt that she was fit, like physically, all the stuff I wanted to do, I couldn't do. She was like physically weak. She couldn't jump.
In the game?
Yeah, in the game. She couldn't, every time I wanted to do something, I was being held back. And then when I switched into Abby's body, all of a sudden, everything I wanted to do, I could do. I could stab someone like I wanted. I could run as fast as I wanted. I could jump as fast as I wanted. I pulled the gun out faster. And I was like, oh, so that was on purpose. Like, Ellie's weak.
Okay. One of the things I mentioned in the last time we talked about this, Steven, is if you think about one of the big complaints from The Last of Us Part 1 to Last of Us Part 2 was Joel dying. Okay. And number one, terrible, right? For the story. Oh my God, I can't believe Joel died. But what I think people really hated was the fact that you could not play The Last of Us in that first half of the game, season 2 or part 2, as the same way that you played part 1. You could not be Joel. You could not do that gameplay. But then when you switch to Abby in The Last of Us Part 2, all of a sudden you are that gameplay. You are the muscles. You are the shiv. You are the crossbow. You are the flamethrower. You are the shotgun. All of a sudden you get The Last of Us Part 2, part 1 in part 2 on that second half.
I see.
So I felt like I've played this game so many times. I feel that way every time I shift to Abby. I go, okay, now I can lock in.
Now I can. And that second half woke me up. Like the Abby stuff really, I was paying attention. Like Lev, I fucking fell in love. Like I really, I gotta die for this kid. I really would. I would jump in front of a bullet for him. I don't really know.
I mean, and also again, mirroring Joel and Ellie. Abby is Joel. Lev is Abby. You know, and these are.
Yeah, exactly.
You would die for these characters. You know,
right.
You would do ridiculous things to die and save these characters, or have revenge.
You would kind of go against what is conventionally right to save these characters.
Yeah. I love that. I love that as so much that it kind of drives you mad into an insane place. I think Craig Mazin and Neil talk about this. Like, one of the premises that they're putting out there is like, absolute love is not absolutely perfect, because what this is doing is like, quote unquote absolute love. Like, Ellie loves Joel so much, or will do anything for Joel, that I will kill and decimate everyone and ignore everyone else's needs. It is a selfish type of love. And that is like the thesis of this. Like, how do people love, and how do you oscillate between that selfishness to selfish, to selfish to selflessness,
Because I found, this is why, one of the reasons why I liked it is it's very clear people are pulling out different things from one story, which is always a good sign.
That's a great sign, yeah.
Because the fascinating part was, I felt like, I don't know what his philosophy is, Neil Druckmann. I don't know too much about him besides sometimes after the show, he does a little interview or whatever, or after the episode, but I'd love to know his philosophies and his theories on a lot of things, on violence, on colonization, on love. I'd love to know what he thinks about these things, because I saw it as not just a defense of selfishness, but the reality that in the porch scene, when Ellie says, because you're selfish, and he says, because I love you. No, those are the same. I am selfish.
Yes.
Not selfless. No. I did that because I'm selfish.
I am selfish. Yes.
Love is selfish. Yeah. And just like when Ellie at the end, people hated some of these scenes in the last episode, but when Ellie was jumping to save that scar, and people were like, well, that's dumb. Yes, it's a dumb action, but the whole point is about 7 different themes in that scene. There's about 7 different themes. So whatever the happening that's stupid is secondary to what they're talking about under this line. The theme go ahead.
I'm sorry. I wanted, before you move on, because I'm going to forget it, and that's my problem. I want to touch on what you're saying because I think that theme is important. What I'm worried about with the adaptation of the TV show is taking away moments from other characters later down the journey. Now, I think what's happening is they're trying to mirror things that happen so that they can go, Ellie did this, and then Abby did this.
Like the hanging.
Exactly. But what I'm worried about is when I think about the gameplay, and I know it's like the book is better. That's the vibe I'm on right now.
Yeah.
Is just like, do we take away from those moments, like the shock of those moments by previewing them the season before? You know what I mean?
Like when the Seraphites first come out and we introduce them and we see them.
Well, I'm fine with the Seraphites, but I mean, like the whole like stringing Ellie up thing, that never happens.
Right.
Now, but in the game, Ellie does meet the Seraphites in the same place that Abby meets the Seraphites, basically. And there's like this whole like mirrored image, and I understand that. But like the idea that they're stringing her up, and then later in this exact same season, Abby comes in at the last scene of the show and she's got the mark on her neck. Okay, so we know that's going to happen again. And I'm just like, I don't want to take away from those moments. And so that's my only concern. Maybe it'll be great. Maybe it'll be perfect. Maybe they will be like, we absolutely nailed what we were doing, the A to B of this story. But that's one of the things I'm worried about. So like when we shift like motivations, those are things that I'm a little concerned about.
I think it's a precursor to what's to come. You know what I mean? Like if you continue on this path, Ellie, then you will lose your spoiler for the game. You will lose your entire village. You will lose everything. You will lose it all. Spoiler of the game. What does she lose? She loses her finger and her ability to play on the guitar. Like you basically lose yourself if you go down this journey. And this is the future, and this is where you are now. And you are about to go across the aquarium and
the preamble.
Vengeance. Yeah, it's a preamble, you know. But and it was I don't know where I read it, or maybe it was in the after show. But Neil Druckmann, I think, originally wanted to have that scene in the game, and then for some reason, it didn't show up. I don't know why, but I think like limitations or something. But
no, see, don't say that because now all of a sudden, like, no, actually, he didn't want that in the game. Okay, actually, the game would have. He didn't want that. You're wrong.
I hear you, Miguel, about the impact in the moment and not.
Yes.
Not one of the reasons I like the changes, why the changes don't bother me really at all, is because just like I was saying about how specific moments in the game did not emotionally move me at all. Like there were certain moments where I felt nothing or I didn't care at all. Like the Jesse thing. And then in the show, it'll come in and they'll change it. Like Jesse, they'll change Jesse. Now I care about Jesse. Now his death has impact. So then someone will turn around, but someone will turn around and say, oh, no, they changed something that had so much impact to now having no impact. And I'm saying, no, that's for you. What happened for me was the opposite. Just because it doesn't work for you does not mean it work for me. Trying to say, well, it doesn't work for me means it doesn't work at all is a nonsensical criticism. That's just bad critiquing. Not you, Miguel. I just mean I've seen a lot of this.
No, I hear you.
Someone will say, I didn't feel it, therefore it's bad. Not there's
I mean, the internet culture around this is just like you can't even dip your toe in it because it's so
very
you can't argue, you can't discuss, you can't say anything. Everything is just completely
that era is
one way or the other. Yeah.
Discussion era is over on the internet. I think but so just the fact that the game did not mean as much to me as it clearly does to so many fanatics. I love it. I think it is really well done, and I think it gets better and better and better as I play it. And I'm starting it again. I'm gonna play it again because I really enjoyed it. But it didn't put a knife in me and twist it. It almost confirmed what I thought. That's why I dissociated and stuff. It's like, yeah, I get this, rather than, oh, I never thought about it. Nah, I get this. It just hit a lot of points I feel like I already understood and feel about humanity and people and selfishness. I understand. Whereas I think for a lot of game players, that's not the case. You know, they were probably going into this and saying, what is happening? You know, it blew their mind. So they think the only way to blow someone's mind is to copy it and do it again exactly the same way. Well, I played the same game and it didn't blow my mind. I love it. I do think it's a masterpiece. I still got to think about it, but I do think it's an incredible game and it's incredibly deep and nuanced and subtle. Thank God that exists.
One of the things I want to talk about is copying the game, okay? Because I think that's a very fair criticism. I don't think anyone is asking. Let me say this.
Okay.
As a game player, I'm not asking the TV show to copy the gameplay. I understand adaptation. I understand, like, let's crank it up to 11. And I think that's what season 1 did really well. And I feel like we talked about that also, is there were moments from the first game that they took in the TV show and they said, we can actually make this a little bit better. And it was impactful from a game player's perspective. It was like, oh, we're doing more than the game. And that was honestly phenomenal. But when we talk about copying straight from the game, the story to the TV show, they were very liberal. And I don't mean that in that perspective, but they were very like loosey-goosey on when are we going to copy exactly what's going to happen in the show, in the game, and when are we going to take liberties in the TV show. So let's skip all of it. Let's skip forever, all the way to the very last scene of the TV show. When Abby shows up in the theater, it is from the moment that Tommy leaves that scene and they have a little bit of dialogue, Jesse and Ellie. There's commotion in the other room. They run to the other room. Everything from that sprint to the other room is pulled exactly from the game. And so now the TV show has decided, we want to copy exactly what happens. And if you listen, and one of the things I heard on the internet was, oh my God, they have pulled basically Abby's dialogue straight from the game. It almost sounded like the actress from the voiceover from the game recorded the dialogue just from the TV show. That is how spot on it is in that moment. And then if you take a step back and you think about the entire TV show, well, why did we decide that these specific moments had to be exact copies of the game, but the rest of it we could go, well, let's change this, let's change that, and let's change it in a way that doesn't quite fit what the characters are doing on their journeys. Okay. So I understand the comment of, oh, the game players, they want it to be exactly this, but the TV show just couldn't decide, are we doing exactly this or are we changing it? Whereas I felt like season 1 was the perfect example of let's change it in the right spaces. Okay. And season 2 really felt like, hey, there was a lot of criticism on the game. Let's try to soften that and vanilla it to make it like palatable for a TV audience. And for me, at the end of the day, that's where I landed. Was I was just like, oh, we were wishy-washy on some things, and I didn't like that.
I see that. That actually is probably the best criticism I've said.
Yeah, that was really well said. Yeah.
That actually makes a lot more sense than anything I've read on Reddit or Forbes did an article that was terrible.
No, I appreciate you saying that because I feel like I wake up every day going, oh my God, I'm just regurgitating Reddit. I'm just basically Reddit. And I don't want that. Okay.
There's literally, there's a Forbes article that came, I think it was like today or yesterday, and it's bad. It's just a copy and paste of Reddit. It's bad. It's bad. It's a real bad article. But I that's interesting. I'm glad to hear that because it seems to me that the game players who were so moved wanted it to be one for one. And I don't even know if I don't know if I could adapt this because I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make this a linear story. I don't know how to make this story work on a show. I wouldn't know what to do because my instinct would be to cut in Abby and Ellie together. So you have, Abby seeing
like one season of both, and that's hard to do.
Too ambitious. That sounds dangerous. Even now, I'm worried about season 3. Are they going to lose everybody? Like, who's coming back? Is it just going to be a few of us, like the game players, or that's a tall order. Asking people to follow Abby in the game was a tall order, and in the show is going to be that's a bold.
Well, you know what's funny is when the show ended on the gunshot, and then I was like, okay, credits, and then it didn't have credits, and then it rolled into the next scene. And then you start to see a little bit of her like everyday life, maybe a quote unquote softer side of her. This is a way for them to pull people in, not only just to see a different side of Abby, but also you got to say it. Look at this gimmick that we're about to pull. It's not really a gimmick, but now it's back to day one, and then you're like, oh my God, we're gonna relive it from Abby's side.
I say
the biggest thing is that you get to see a little bit more color from her before we leave.
Just to bring in the outside perspective is Kristen watched the entire season with me and she was not picking up on the day 1, day 2, day 3 of it all.
I noticed
exactly. And I think to your point, Steven, about like, are we going to lose people in season 2? I think there's going to be a lot of people that don't quite understand. Wait, this is happening all at the same time. Like they're going to not understand that this is all congruent, you know? I mean, I told her, I was like, do you understand what's happening? Like this is day 1 and that's important. And then all of a sudden she was like, oh,
but
I see.
Feel like they do that all the time with like Game of Thrones and shit. Like they'll like leave little clues to be like, actually this little thing means this, and that means these people are going to meet.
But to be fair,
like, I would have never have known that. And people are like, I'm locked in. You know what I mean?
But I watched Game of Thrones, you know what I mean? Like season 1 of Game of Thrones the first time without ever hearing the story, without ever reading the books. And I was lost as fuck. Okay. It wasn't until like the second or third viewing. And so like, it's like they need to like retain these viewers for a second or third viewing to really understand like why this works, you know?
Yeah.
No, man, I sound like a hater and I understand. I really am just like an avid gamer I love the game.
To me, that's fair. That's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear the gamers I want to hear every reason a gamer has. That's why I was looking for criticism, and it's pretty weak. I mean, it's not invalid. It's just a lot of like, I don't like the color shirt she's wearing. Okay, come on.
Oh my God.
No, I tell you what,
times like I didn't like that edit.
Can I say?
And I was just like, dude, what? You
know, there were a lot of moments where I was like, oh, they're like preluding to the season after this. Like she falls out of the boat or whatever, and she gets back. They have the whole Seraphite, which is not in the game. She gets like strung up in the Seraphites, and then she gets back in the boat. And then when she's like on the way back to the aquarium, there's all these explosions on the island, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be good. There was a moment where she was in Seattle, and like in the shot above everything else, there was that bridge. And I was like, the bridge.
Oh, the bridge.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my God. And I was like, I said something and she was like, why are you reacting? And I was like, I'm sorry. That's going to be something later on. You know what I mean? Like that is like a whole moment. And then they confirm it all by the fact that Abby shows up with that mark on her neck, you know?
Yeah. I love that detail.
They are saying everything that happens in day 1, 2, and 3 definitely happen. Well, not definitely, but you know what I'm saying? Like they're setting up for, there's a lot of backstory we're not seeing in these moments. And so,
you know what? I think the criticism, like I loved your criticism, Miguel, and I think that's completely valid as far as like intensifying from the game. The way that I'm viewing it is like I played the game and I experienced it this way. I've watched the show, and even season 1 is like this Ellie is different from the Ellie from the video game. And so I'm watching the show not from the place of a video game, but like I'm want to continue the story from this Bella Ramsey Ellie into this season 2. And that may grow and change and evolve differently than kind of the landscape that like Ellie in the video game does. Like at some point they start to kind of like, you have small changes in the beginning, but then at the further and further you go, those lines begin to just change and divert. And so I'm just looking down at my feet and I'm saying, I'm following this road of Bella Ramsey Ellie. And you know what? I mean, the road looks pretty right to me. Like in the sense where like, I understand motivation to motivation to motivation. Not to say that there aren't valid criticisms for dialogue or whatever and how things were framed. But overall, I think, yes, did I not have that feeling that I had with Ellie in the game of like, wow, she's a loose cannon and I'm scared of her? Yeah. But I guess for me, I was able to experience this like, okay, this is the Bella Ramsey Ellie, and I'm just following. They're just yes-anding themselves.
Listen, I love that for you. I just
think, and I love that for you. You know,
I you know what? I love. We can love that for all of us. You know, my last thought is just that, the Ellie that is 5 years later from episode or part 1 is an Ellie that not only has lived in Jackson for a few years, but also traveled across the country. When she went from Boston, which was her shelter, which was her like childhood, which was her whatever, she goes out into the real world, and that is the theme of her arc. Is they say it in season 1, you know, just because you're immune doesn't mean you can't be ripped apart by zombies.
Yeah.
And I felt like the Ellie in this season did not hold on to that message, you know, like she is much more mature story wise in the game. And I understand where, like, Luis, you told me the very first time we talked about Last of Us in this season was just like, well, I don't know, Miguel, like you're kind of old and sometimes kids look young. And I'm like, yeah, kids are children. You're absolutely right. But I just really wanted that like locked in, hey, I have trauma and I'm carrying it. And there was too many times in this season where, just me personally, you guys, there was too many times this season where I just felt like, oh, she's being a little too silly.
She was silly.
It felt like season 1 Ellie in a season 2 game. And we just for me, I just wasn't there. But I could talk about it forever, and I'm not going to sound like that asshole the entire time. So I feel like
say one nice thing about the show.
Yeah, Miguel, would you like?
Miguel does this thing about us when we start fighting and we start yelling at each other.
I appreciate you saying that.
Let's Luis, say one nice thing about Ed right now, because we'll get into like a tip. So Miguel, say one nice thing about season 2.
Okay. So first off, I really appreciate you saying that. Okay, like let me bring up some things that I actually liked. First off, let's talk about changes. Gale as a character was not in the game at all, and Gale, Catherine O'Hara, was just such a really fun addition to the TV show. Her story with Eugene, the fact that they adapted Eugene in the way that they did, that was a really great adaptation. Was that something that I saw coming? Absolutely not, but I loved what they did with it. I loved Joe Pantoliano. How am I saying that wrong? Sorry. Where he has this really subtle change from Eugene to zombie Eugene at that very last shot of him, where he like shows his teeth a little bit more and he tilts his head. That was a really subtle performance by him, and I thought that was so good. I would say that I'm going to pick an Ellie moment. I'm going to try to find an Ellie moment that really worked for me, because I talked a lot of shit and I'm going to find a good one. I loved that dialogue where she told Jesse, kind of fuck your community. Like my community was taken from me. Okay.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the standout moment for Ellie in this season, was just like, it was all encapsulating of her whole journey. Why is she doing this? Because the person she loved most in this world, who took care of her in her most vulnerable years, was taken from her, and she is going to get revenge in a really solid, earnest way. And I always thought that the people say that Ellie in the game, at that moment in the game where Jesse and her kind of like split off in the game, is she's being selfish, she's being this, she's being that, and I understand. But to me, that's one of my favorite parts of the game too, for Ellie. She is like, I will double down on this because I can, because this is how I feel. And I felt like they really nailed that moment for Ellie in the TV show as well.
I love that. That's a really good point. I like that. I think for me, when I played the game, I wrote a bunch of notes here, and I realized most of them are about the game. I was writing notes about the when I was watching the episode, but I wrote a bunch of notes about the game. But I realized with the Abby stuff, I've heard a lot of comments like, oh, you empathize with Abby or sympathize with Abby, or you understand her, or I don't think I felt those things. I guess I sympathized. But it was darker than she's right, or she's a good guy in her own eyes, or she's her own hero, or I didn't feel any of that. What I got from Abby, especially playing her, and how I felt when I was playing her, was a type of darkness, a dead hollowness that's in her. Not she's actually the good guy of her own story. I don't even think she
doesn't feel that. She doesn't feel that. No.
Empty, she's hollow, she's dark, she's a type of demon. Like, she's a type of demon, and she's allowed it. She's let that hate fester, and
then you introduce, the Seraphite, and then you have an arc that has grown. So it's
and I still felt like the way I felt with her was, when I'm Ellie towards her in the game, I felt rage, like I felt anger. Then I felt disgust when I got to know her, and then by the end I felt pity. I felt nothing but I didn't feel, oh, what she did was okay, and actually I forgive you. I don't feel any of that. I felt it would have been like shooting a wounded dog. It was like, this is not a human being. This is a darkness and a demon. And I am becoming this demon. I am becoming just like her. Yes. And Ellie was better than her because she didn't do what Abby did. Abby's darkness is going to follow her for the rest of her life. it's going to losing her friends, losing her father, killing Joel and feeling no better. All of this shit's going to remain with her for the rest of her life. She's dead inside. It's done.
Her one shining moment is like trying to be better for Lev, which is a very parenthood theme. Let me do better than my parents. Let me do better than my choices. Let me like give to her something, or Lev, excuse me, something more than what I was given. And it mirrors Ellie, who like went from this like shining moment of Joel to losing him in the darkness, to starting with Abby with her darkness, and to like finding the shining moment, but then ending on this moment of I kind of like, I don't really know what's going to happen next, you know?
I'm also a little bit like, there's no return for what you've gone through as well. And literally, it's a physical manifestation that you see at the end of the game, where it's like, you never can be the person again that you were at the beginning of this game. It's the same way that Abby was as well.
Ellie loses the fingers. Abby loses her muscles. You know what I mean? Like there is a change that is happening between both of those characters. Guys, sorry, go ahead.
My biggest thing from the show when it first started and she didn't have any muscles and I was still playing the game, and you Luis, and were like kind of like, oh no, but she's supposed to have muscles, and I took that as one of these things like, oh, she's not wearing the right shirt. But now that I finished the game, I'm like, you're right, those muscles serve as a strong symbol.
That's what I was. Yes, exactly. Yes.
They show you who she is.
I told you it was a story function. You know what I mean?
And the loss of them show her new self. You're absolutely right. So I'm not sure what. It's kind of weird, like when Isaac was like, "She's gonna be our leader. She's a good soldier."
Oh my god!
Okay, that dialogue. I was like,
the dialogue in that moment was so good. The other soldier goes like, "Isaac, what the fuck are you talking about?" You know, like we have Abby's, we have Mel's, we have Owen's, we have all these. What does it matter? And it's almost like that soldier was like, "I could be the leader," and Isaac was like, "No." It has to be Abby. Yeah. And it was just like, oh, okay. I could see that in the game being like a scene that they cut, but I could see how that would work. But I didn't quite understand it in the moment until Abby showed up, and then she fucking just nailed that scene in the very last of this season. I was like, oh, okay. I see her. She's got the jacket on. You know, she's got the shoulder pads in the jacket. Okay, I get it. She's ready to go.
It is without the muscle. Like even in that scene, like without the muscles, I'm going. I can take her. Like I'm gonna run her. Like,
I throw that gun down for a second and let's talk. You know, I mean, what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying when she was big in the game, there's a really intimidating element there where I know
And you could talk about the gameplay for a second. Just Ellie is slender. She is not Joel. She is this like skinny little 19-year-old, little tall for her height or whatever.
Right.
And you think she's going around stabbing people because she's got that knife on her the entire time, where you had to craft shivs the entire game. The first time she has a knife on her. She's ready to go. Yeah. But then when she meets Abby beats her up a little bit. But then when you shift perspectives, Abby has to play against Ellie. And all of a sudden, Ellie is pulling out all the stops. She's crafting all the bombs. She's crafting all the traps.
Things that I use against other people. Ellie has me, and I'm like, you son of a...
And Ellie has learned. She knows how to play that version of herself.
Yeah. That's where I died. Right. She caught me like 10 times. That was exhausting.
No, because tell me why I'm playing Abby for 45 hours or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden I'm getting beat by this scrawny bitch? No, absolutely not. All right.
I was getting whooped.
I strangle zombies. Don't fucking talk to me. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, man, she whipped my butt. She was always shotgunning me.
My last thought I would say is I had so much hope for this season, and I know I landed kind of negatively, but I also am ending with a lot of hope for the next season. And I want to say by the end product, I will have some sort of like neutral to positive opinion of it all. I really love this story. I think it's really good. I think it's a really solid thing. And whether you play the game or you watch a TV show, you shouldn't discount it. So, I mean, I'm still here.
You bring up a good point, and maybe I'll wrap with this, but like, imagine there wasn't a season 3. Imagine there was just a 20 episode season 2, you know? And you get to be like, because we're in the midpoint of the game. Like, they didn't make Last of Us Part 2 and then Last of Us Part 3. It was like, no, you're playing the whole thing.
They said, you're still going. Yeah.
You're still going. And here it's like, we can cut it here. And technically that is enough. But like, if we kept going, then people at the end of it might be like, oh, I see what was going on now, because that's how you feel about Act 1 versus like the end of the story. And so, I mean, I don't know. Marketing, money, we can't be in a world where we can do that right now, but it's unfortunate.
One final question. Is Pedro Pascal going to show up in season 3?
Yes.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Totally, right?
Yeah.
Even though they did the flashbacks, they did all the porch scenes, they did that in this season. They'll find a way, right?
Yeah. Tommy.
I think they'll find a way to bring him back for an extra something.
He's the star. Sure. You know, he's got to make that $600,000 an episode.
Honestly,
you know
the fact that he's not here anymore, like, I'm never bothered by Pedro being gone or by Joel being gone. Like, I was just like, this feels right.
Because he served his purpose, you know.
Yes, and now the story is turning a different. Like, oh my god, the fact that it continues on with the actions that he had, and there's consequences. Like, that's fantastic. That's great storytelling.
Yes.
The greater impact that Joel Miller had on these people, like on these cities. The impact that this one man has had, he has like just devastated families long after he died. Like the whole group's dying because of him long after his death. It was a echo his life had in the apocalypse. I mean, that was just insane. That's crazy. Are we getting to the end? I just got some notes I wanted to rattle fast. I want to talk specifically about. I would normally play this game at night. Like right now would be a good time to like start playing for me normally. And I'm in this house, I'm all alone, and it's pretty creepy. I'm like in the middle of nowhere, and I don't scare easily. I mean, not like I'm tough or anything, but just, movies are movies. I can kind of separate it. But this was one I had the headphones on, my controller, and I'd start looking around the room.
Yes.
From clickers. This is what I realized was I started getting this like disgustedness in my stomach, even just killing humans like that, or just crawling around this empty, barren wasteland with corpses and stuff. I just started to get sick, and I was like, oh, this is a horror game. They're not jump scaring me out of my skin. They're just making me want to peel my flesh off. Like all this disgust, I feel icky just everywhere, just because of everyone and all their choices make me feel icky. Like this world makes me feel gross. And I was like, this is a fascinating way to do horror rather than being in your face or violent or anything like that. They just made me feel bad. And so I wrote this note, like when people I think reacted to that, where people who didn't like the game, I feel like they were feeling that and didn't like to feel that. And so they said it was a bad game. But I think you're supposed to feel that. People would say, like, I don't want to play as Abby. And I wrote down, Abby doesn't want to play as Abby. That's the point.
Yes.
Horrifying world.
Yes.
So now, of course it hurts. It's supposed to hurt. That's the point of the game. That's the horror. It's not just the clicker. That's secondary horror. That's the trick. That's the bait. The real horror is that we turn into demons when our favorite people are
ourselves.
Turn into these types of demons.
They set up all these things where the other people, the zombies, the others, everyone else is the bad guys, but we are also the bad guys.
That's kind of why I don't think I felt as much, is because I really did disassociate and just accept this from the first season, where I'm like, I'm Joel. I'm the bad guy. I don't give a shit. Like I don't. Oh no, is it right or wrong? Don't care. Shoot. Don't care. Shoot. Like
exactly. Yeah.
That translated into Ellie, and then you watch Ellie become unacceptable. I was just sad to feel. My desire for vengeance fluctuated up and down. Like by the time I got to the Rattler stuff, I was okay. I was like, I'm just gonna free Abby. I wasn't really feeling vengeance.
That might be my favorite moment of the entire game, is that whole last chunk of the season. I
think so too. I was like completely numb as Ellie then. I mean, I didn't want vengeance even. I was dead. I was numb.
No, you're almost like begrudgingly fulfilling your,
Yeah, literally. I was going to let her go on the boat, and she's like, no, we're going to fight. Okay.
No, let's get it out. Let's get it out,
Yeah, let's get out of the way. What is it? Oh, I also wrote, trying to use like an objective moral template to figure out these conclusions is only going to drive you crazy. people are trying to figure out who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. These cartoonish terms are never going to apply to these games. And on top of that, they don't apply to the world. And I think Neil Druckmann is just sort of introducing that. Like, it's a little more realistic than a lot of the other, like Walking Dead would be, or a lot of other zombie stuff we've seen. This is just a little less black and white. And I think it really messed with people. This is the last thing I'll say, and then I'm done. I thought how funny it was in the show. They added the C-section, how Mel was like, her death was a little more innocent, whereas in the game, I was like, you really shouldn't attack me. I was like, well, this isn't.
And she says that, you stupid bitch or whatever, she says it.
Yes.
Yeah. So it didn't make me feel bad. I was like, oh no, she's pregnant. I'm walking away from this. But in the game, I felt horrible. I felt sick. Like, again, that change I thought was very well done. But I thought, could you imagine if Ellie had done the C-section and had gotten the baby out? And then
where Abby she would have gone,
Nope, not that. And then Abby had stumbled on their bodies. What would Abby have thought if she had come across that scene? Like, what would be in her head if she came across like with a baby ripped out of her? Thank God she didn't cut, because I would have started cutting. And thank God she didn't start cutting, because Abby would have.
She would become a demon. Like, she would just become another person.
Yeah. They cut her baby out.
Because that is unmoral, you know what I mean? Like, that is just the worst thing. You did that on purpose,
right? I would think you tortured her, that she was alive when you did it or something. It would have been just, thank God she didn't even stick the knife in, because Abby would have been crazy. That's it. That's all I got.
Man, what a season. What an episode, you guys.
What a season. What an episode. Thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned to our other episode. We're talking about Mission Impossible. What's it called? The Final Reckoning. We did a Lilo and Stitch. Fun one on YouTube. But hey, stay tuned for more stuff. Until next week, it's been me, Luis Gonzalez, and with me's been
Miguel Sanchez
and Steven Escobar.
Until next time, later, Gators.
Later, Gators.
Find the light.